So here we are. This is Wednesday, February 9th, and this is Senate Reapportionment Committee. And we are beginning the work of trying to figure out how to reapportion our districts so that we meet the statutory and constitutional requirements of, and we've gone through what those are before, and they are on our webpage. So committee, we haven't had much time between last night and this morning. I must admit that since we set the schedule, and I just would like to hear what you think, the meeting Tuesday night and then Wednesday morning might not have been the smartest thing, because there's, I don't know, whatever anybody else has to do after we quit at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, but there isn't much time before Wednesday to do much else. So I don't know. Do other committee members have any thoughts on that? And I don't know, we couldn't find any other time. So what? Yeah, Randy, Senator Brock.
That is the problem in this whole process, is time. Whereas the members of the apportionment committee had a lot of time over the summer to work on this, we have no time. I look at my schedule. I don't have, I have one lunch hour free the entire week that isn't booked with other meetings. And trying to do, which is obviously time intensive to do it right, is frankly isn't working, at least for me.
Yeah.
We got done at 8 o'clock last night. We had a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it isn't just a matter of the me with so little time in between, but it's also just a pure matter of time.
Well,
Yeah, Senator Clarkson.
and a matter of time to actually do some thinking about it. I applaud Chris and his ability to have been working on this. He I know worked on this quite a bit when we were both in the house together. But you know, like Bobby, I had meetings that went late last night, and all I got to do was sleep on it. Now, often sleep is our friend and helps edify and illuminate all sorts of things. But I can't rely on sleep alone to be the thing that's going to help us move this forward. I mean, it would be great to have some time with Nick. I haven't had a chance to do that. I'm thrilled some of our members have. I hesitate to say this, but for 1 month, which is really what we're talking about, might we consider a meeting on Mondays and or at another point, like, you know, and I could, anyway, I'm happy to shift around. But I think the thing we're all missing is time to actually weigh what we've been presented in a meeting and then do anything about it. You know, and I think that's the challenge.
I think you're right. Yeah, Senator Brock.
Well, the option, of course, is, you know, we're now effectively a full-time committee, having typically serving on 2 other full-time committees, plus all of the other committees and meetings and so on and so forth that we have. And this process, just for me, is not working. You know, the options, of course, are Monday, which is difficult because my Mondays typically fill up as well. Whether or not we take an hour or 2 out of our other committees is one option to at least think about. That's not a desirable option, but you can't be in more than one place at once.
Well,
No.
There's
You're
3 of
serious
us.
about that?
I thought Zoom enabled us to do that, Randy.
Chris.
I had situations where I've had 3 Zoom meetings going on at once, but I don't like to do that.
So Senator Pearson, did you have a thought?
Yeah, well, I wonder about trying Tuesday and Friday, and then with an understanding that basically everyone tries to bring a map on Friday or, you know, or Tuesday, but we there's not a lot to talk about. We need to have maps, and we need to we need to bring them forward and hash out what feels all right and what we don't think will fly. And, we could try to do that as a group, or, I mean, those are to me the options. We do that as a group, or we come together, a few of us, or each of us present things and we go back to the drawing board. So that I don't know, maybe I withdraw my scheduling suggestion, but whatever enables that to happen seems to make sense to me.
Does it make any sense the other thing I think for me is a problem is that an hour, just that block of time is too short.
Not enough.
Is there any possibility that maybe for 2 Mondays anyway, we could set aside a block of time? And I know that everybody has, some people work, and that might be a problem. I don't know if you can get out of work for a block of time on two Mondays, and everybody does constituent work on Mondays, but we have to give up something. When we
Well-
volunteered to be on this committee, I think everybody volunteered, expressed an interest. We knew that it was going to be an extra committee and that it was extra work, and that we were going to have to meet mornings, evenings, whatever. And I realized that we all have constituent work and we have other caucuses and obligations, but something has to give. We simply can't all do it all. So Senator Collmore?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing that this will not be met with universal approval, but what about if we met earlier on Wednesdays, like at 7:30? I can see Allison isn't excited about that.
We might see her in her pajamas.
That's okay. So we go 7:30 to 9 on Wednesdays. And then on Tuesdays, if the chairs meeting doesn't have the full hour, maybe it always does, maybe it doesn't, we could start at 4:30 and go till 6. So we've gained an hour between those 2 days. And I realize they're back-to-back days. I'm just trying to carve out more time when we're already together rather than try to find an additional day.
Yeah.
I can make Mondays work as well if we need to, but it's just a thought.
Bobby?
Yeah, and Mondays, see you have a lot of meetings earlier on Monday, or I do anyways, because we know that it's open, but why couldn't we meet from 4 or whenever people can start later on Monday and go until 6 or 7? My meetings are usually from 8:30 till 1 or 2 o'clock on Mondays.
Everybody has conflict here. And I say again, that we all have to give up something to do
Right.
this. If it means meetings with constituents, that's what it has to be. If it means trying to get out of work, I mean, I don't know how else to do this, because we need bigger blocks of time. We need more time, and we need to have more. I'm not sure that the Tuesday, Wednesday, I like that, but I'm not sure that that's enough time in between them to do anything. By the time we get out on Tuesday night before Wednesday morning, I'm so fried by Tuesday night that I can't do too much. But anyway, I'm just saying that we do, if when we volunteered for this, we knew that it was going to be extra work, extra time, and that it was going to be in addition to our committee work, and that we knew we were going to have to give up something. And we just can't all do everything. So anyway, Senator Clarkson.
Oh, look, Brian has maps. Look at that. I'm jealous.
No, I have a calendar. I'm trying to think.
Calendar. I'm sorry. You know me, I'm blind.
I'm looking at next Monday.
So
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to the fact that Jeanette, Andy, and Chris work full-time. I mean, and this is an issue. It's already our legislative life intrudes on the supposed citizen legislature aspect of our lives. So I'm being sensitive that for Brian Collmore, I would be willing to consider a 7:30 start. But so in some ways that may be a smart move. And just because that would carve out a little bit more time.
So maybe we could set aside the next 2 Mondays, like 2-hour block at some point. And then
Bobby, what kind of meetings do you have on Mondays?
This Monday, I've got Farm Bureau.
I know, but you have to give up something. You can't
Yeah,
do
but
it all.
I've already told them I'd be there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I know.
And we've got an Orleans County Conservation District meeting Monday, this coming Monday. And then in the afternoon, there's another county meeting. And I try to attend those if at all possible. You know, all
Okay.
politics is local.
I know, I'm going to back up here a minute. I have meetings scheduled every Monday, constituent meetings every Tuesday, every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because organizations don't always set up their meetings on Mondays, and they invite you to come. And we have Building Bright Futures and tons of things. You have to prioritize your time and figure out for the time being what is going to give and what isn't. And this really is important, and we all volunteered for it. And I'm not in the same position as Andy and Chris, because I can work or not work on Mondays. I just work on projects, so that's not an issue for me. So we also have town meeting week, but we need to get a lot of work done before then. And I know that Chris and Andy probably are planning on working full time during town meeting week, but.
So why can't we meet later, Mondays later in the day, like at 4 o'clock or something?
About 3.
Or 3, you know, whenever these guys can get off work and not, you know, or get some time in.
Unless people have constituent meetings on Monday afternoons and evenings, which is when a lot of them are in Windham County.
Right.
So,
And
and I'm not going to go to them because I can't, because.
Okay, because I think we're using up a lot of our time, and Mike could do
Yeah.
this doodle poll. I think we could try maybe on Valentine's Day, if we all are so sweet on this work, we could all gather from 4 to 6 or 4:30 to 6, whatever we want on the 14th. I am willing to give you some of my Valentine's Day. I have a meeting in the evening, but I could do 4 to 6, and I could do the following Monday, 4 to 6. At the moment, nothing is there, which
So-
I'm sure that will change, but I'm happy to do that with all of you. Or I'm happy to extend the time. I'm not sure we're identifying any additional time other than on the weekends.
Okay. Yeah, Randy?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily throw out the weekend, as long as everything is on the table. You know, a Saturday morning from 8 to 10 and so on certainly would work for me.
Yep.
Much easier than trying to move or to deal with all the other schedules and conflicts that you have during the middle of the week or on Mondays.
Okay.
Yep.
Saturdays
you had-
would work.
Chris, you had your hand up, I think.
Well, I could do Saturday 8 to 10. And I could
Now,
make,
Allison, why can't you do Saturday 8 to 10?
I can't do this many 8. I'm willing to do it. Yeah, it's just, that's a day when actually okay.
But everybody is going to have conflicts here, and everybody has things to do on every minute of the day. We
I know, but-
volunteered for this committee. We knew that it was.
Saturday. I know, I just am saying Saturday's tough. I think the weekends are a last resort if we have to go to them.
I would just say my Monday is more flexible than you might think.
Okay.
Though I typically have a standing work meeting in the afternoon, but Senator Perchlik
Yeah.
probably has a harder time Monday. My question is not when to meet, it's what are we doing? I don't think we need more time. We need a clearer purpose
Okay.
that then may inform whether or not we need more time. So that I just put in a plug
Okay.
for that.
Randy?
But one of the time factors also is the ability to work with our mapping expert.
Right.
Oh, no, I know Chris is done. I don't know if the rest of the committee is. I haven't had a chance to do that. And so the
No.
point is, when is there time to do that? I'm going to try to get a hold of him today and see if I can schedule, a half an hour during a noontime where I can break away from something else. But I haven't had time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the rest of the committee. Has the rest of the committee had time to visit
No.
with our mapping expert?
No.
No.
Because I think that's really important in terms of looking at the options that we want to present to the rest of us. If we're just talking among ourselves on the basis of information that we don't have or samples that we haven't run, I think we waste even more time.
Yeah.
And so
So let's
somewhere we
not-
need to craft time to be able to do that as well.
Andy?
Yeah, I was going to suggest, which I think Chris said earlier, if we have schedule time, not in committee where we do, it's hard as a committee, especially on Zoom, to get much done, I think. So it'd be better to schedule time that we can each individually or small groups work with Nick so that when we come back to the group, we have something to propose. Because I think if we're just all looking around the map, that just takes way too many hours. But
Yeah.
if we come forward and say, okay, I propose to do X, and then people can respond to that, you can go forward. But you need that time to yourself with Nick to create those maps. Chris and I have done that a little bit, but you need that extra time. So I would say maybe, Wednesday mornings or wherever different people can fit those times in is almost more important.
I think that makes sense. I have not had time to schedule anything because I just haven't had time to do it. So, so Chris and Andy, you have already made some shiftings around, and have you come up? So maybe what we should do is start with what you've already done. And then, no.
Well, I mean, I'm not ready. So
Okay.
Nick, the schedule gets you a half an hour and he's fast and good. But it's, I wouldn't say I have anything satisfactory yet. I mean,
Okay.
it takes time and, in a half an hour, in my experience, I can sort of get about halfway through the state. And then you realize how poorly it's all coming together. So I agree. I think scheduling time, and I've done Monday time with Nick. I did some, when was that? 2 days ago, and last week. So I do think that's actually probably more important. And
Okay.
if each of us can do some of that, you'll at least start to understand more directly the challenges and the give and take, and that will help, I think, inform our group discussion.
That makes,
Well, maybe,
that makes sense.
maybe I could work with Randy on the top part. If that would be helpful, because we know the top part quite
Yep.
well.
Yep.
I'll join you
Good.
guys.
Yep, good.
Okay, yeah. Nick, did you have a?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Atherton, Mapping Specialist with Office of Legislative Counsel. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'll send around another link to my booking tool at the end of this meeting so that folks can make appointments, but also that I'm happy to do an hour-long appointment if you want to just book 2 back-to-back. If something is already, part of my schedule is already booked, then it just won't have an option to do that. So if you see an hour block free, then please feel free to take both of those, and we can maybe make more progress or something like that.
Good, that's very gracious of you. Okay, so we'll just keep the schedule that we have right now. And hope and individually work with Nick, or individually or in small groups to work with Nick to make some proposals that we can then bring to the whole group so the whole group can look at those proposals. And I know that Senator Collmore, you said you would work with Bobby and Randy, but would you also work with me on the southern and
Sure.
Allison on the southern
Yeah.
part?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Can I suggest, Madam Chair, maybe we try this Saturday and drop off next Tuesday? Just to see how it works?
I could do Monday. Saturday's a bit of a challenge for me this week, but I could do sometime Monday together.
Okay,
I
And
could do
not
Saturday,
Tuesday.
Sunday, Monday. I'm gonna cancel whatever I have.
and then drop Tuesday, next Tuesday? Don't do
But-
that.
But that interferes really with Andy. Andy,
I could do Monday after, I usually leave my afternoons on Monday open. So if it's in the afternoon, I can,
Okay.
especially if it's
Okay.
not every Monday.
no, okay,
Let's
Yeah,
try
I
next
think-
Monday and drop Tuesday off.
so let's try Monday, what time?
Late,
3:30.
Three. 3 o'clock?
I will cancel my physical therapy appointment.
So
I'll
3
drive
o'clock.
down to Brattleboro, we can do it together.
what
Then
time
if could you do 4, Jeanette? Would that be
Nope. Nope,
not like your thing?
I'll cancel it. I can do it for another day. I can't,
All right, let
I'm
me
just
mark that in. So Monday, the 14th at 4. Or however long it takes.
and should we count on an hour and a half or 2 hours?
Yeah,
Hour and a half.
4 to 6:30 or 4 to 5:30. And then take off the 15th, don't do that, and then be back on Wednesday. Okay.
I have a meeting Monday night. I could do 4 to 6, but and are we
You
meeting?
just said 3:30, I thought.
4 to 5:30.
4 gets.
4 to
let's-
5:30, Andy said.
Yep.
Just
And if
for
anybody
the
needs-
record, I'll be canceling something.
So will I.
Yeah. It's,
So-
Me too.
and I don't care, but it's to the chair's point. This
Yes,
sucks.
we cannot not cancel things if we volunteered for this committee. We knew what we were getting into. And no, well, you didn't really know what you were getting into. I knew what you were getting into because I did this 10 years ago, and we met, of course, we were in person then, but we met hours and hours and hours in the appropriations room, and at noon and at night and early in the morning. And people canceled other things.
Right, we got it. Is it, I am still not clear on Monday. We're 4 to 6?
4 to 6, 4 to 5:30 or 6, whichever.
Okay. And
But
it's,
we have to
Can we
also-
decide that?
What?
Because can we decide when the end time is? Because it's not trivial
Okay,
in my life.
Sure,
It's
4 to
not for me either.
Okay.
I would prefer 5:30. But I have
Okay.
a 5 o'clock meeting. The Lake Champlain Commission meets from 5 to 7. So at least I can attend part of it. And again, I volunteered for that too.
5:30.
the problem with being in the Senate or in the legislature in general probably is being part of all those other things. And when I went to the Senate, I got myself off every single board and every single committee there was that I had been on, because I mean,
Now,
I
so
just,
did I, but it was the Senate that appointed me to this thing.
oh, bad. So I think that what we need to do is make sure that we remember some staff people that we also have to consider here. So we're asking Mike and either Michael Amron or
Nick,
Michael or Amron, who do not have to be with us. I think that we can honestly say at this point that Michael Chernick and Amron Abergelli do not need to be with us while we're going through these machinations, until we get to a point where we're actually coming to some conclusions. It's your choice. Does the committee agree with me on that? I don't,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
think there's a
I
need.
mean,
Yep.
So we welcome you if you want to, but understand that you have a lot of other obligations. Mike, on the other hand, Mike Farrand, we do need. So that is a consideration. Mike, does Monday afternoon work for you?
This Monday afternoon would work.
Okay,
Like Senator Pearson, I will have to sacrifice some things and probably get some dirty looks around the house, but that's okay. I do have a hard stop at 5:30 on Mondays. So if
Okay.
the committee wants to meet on Mondays, I can support that. I will not work past 5:30. I'm a scoutmaster for a Boy Scout troop going through a transition, and we meet Mondays at 6. So that's
Okay.
extremely important. And the weekends, I cannot support.
okay,
So we can find coverage, but I can't guarantee that for the rest of our staff. That's why I staff this committee,
yep.
because the rest of my staff is doing other things.
And they are also very, very busy during the week, and we can't, asking them to give up a weekend is really hard.
Mhm.
So this Monday, 4 to 5:30.
Yep,
And
Okay.
next week will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday then.
Yes,
Okay. Yep. Okay, that only took 30 minutes.
Now,
oh,
on Fridays, or excuse me, on Wednesdays, are we agreeing to start at 7:30 instead of 8?
I'm
I
fine
can't.
with that.
Yep.
yeah.
I get into this building at 6:30, so it could even be earlier, but
Yeah, well, it
I
can't-
know.
I could do that if I stayed up all night the night before.
Randy, I understood that you never logged off from last night.
It's very possible.
Okay, so next week and Fridays are going to start being more of an issue as we start having
Yeah.
more on the floor. But
Yep.
we will continue this Friday and next Friday to try and meet at noon.
Yep.
Okay, all right, great. All right, so I'm sorry I brought that up, but I was feeling that I had not left this chair and since last night and had not done anything since last night because I just didn't have time. I didn't look at one single thing. And I didn't know if the rest of you felt that way or not, but. All right, so where are we now? Should we continue looking at the map that we were, the last night's map?
I thought it was helpful to, I think one of the things, even though it's taking some time, that's really helpful for the rest of us who don't know each other's districts and don't know all of it so well, is actually, it's been very helpful to kind of work our way. And I believe we were, I would love to finish looking our way east, and because we haven't actually
Yep.
finished. So it would be, and that's helpful in an initial grounding in the challenge.
And I think, do we all agree that we are potentially being a little more creative here than what actually exists? That, I mean, at one point, it had been mentioned that Washington and Lamoille make a perfect 4-member district. So if you divided that, not necessarily by Washington and Lamoille, but somehow split that, you could have two-member districts. And the same thing in, I don't know if it's true in Orange and Windsor or whatever, but that we aren't just looking at maintaining the same number of people in the same districts and trying to juggle the districts around. Do we agree on that, or are we not?
think-
Well, I agree to an extent, but people don't like change. I don't care if it's at the bank or in a grocery store. People like continuity to where they're used to being with and working. So I would keep that, open, but I would certainly remember when we're doing this that people don't like change.
Anybody, Chris?
Well, I certainly am open, and I think, frankly, the shifts in population demand a flexible approach, and because it's clearly, between breaking up the 6th seat and the population shifts, there's no map that is close to the status quo that works. And just out of curiosity, I've started playing to see if you could do equal districts of like 15 2-seaters, and just trying, along these lines, we're basically, most districts are 2 seats.
Mhm.
We've got Chittenden already. That could be any manner of machinations. So just to say, I do think it's important. I do think I agree with Senator Starr that there's a limit to how much people will tolerate change, but we have this opportunity and we have to move things. It's if your goal was to maintain the status quo, it would be really hard. And so that, to me, emphasizes an opportunity to do something kind of interesting and moving towards better fairness, trying not to shake the whole world up. So
We could just leave everything the way it is and take Chittenden district the way it is and chop it up and face numerous court challenges.
right.
That's because we will, if we don't think a little more creatively. So, okay, I just wanted to put that out there so that that's a very interesting concept, Chris. I hadn't thought of kind of going in that direction, but there are a couple places where that would fit nicely.
Well, there's most of the states already there.
Yeah.
But it's obviously would be a shift in a few districts. So I'm certainly not wed to it. I'm not going to press it, but just as an example of something to play with and see, to me, it's interesting.
Yep. Okay. So can we start looking at the map and shifting east a little bit so we can begin to understand more of the communities?
Okay, so which map are we going to?
I don't know if you look at your map on there or if you look at the screen, because Nick is putting it up. And if you look on Nick's screen, you'll be looking at exactly the same map that everybody else is.
Right, but we're basing this, Nick, off the minority map, right?
Correct. This is the the Senate minority map is drawn by the LAB.
Yeah.
Right.
So can you zoom in a little bit on kind of from Addison up?
Or
so we can see Addison up.
Yeah,
North, south, east, west, center.
front, sort of the top northeast. Keep
going east
and
Yep.
north.
and north. Okay.
Yeah, we
Right.
want to see kind of Chittenden, Franklin, Grand Isle,
Got it,
Essex,
got it.
Orleans, Caledonia, that area.
Okay. Sounds good. This is about as close as I can get and get all of that on screen.
I think that you can zoom out a little bit so we can, yeah. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
So we haven't really looked at all at the northeast. So this one would make Orleans a 1-member district and part of Caledonia, Orleans and Essex, a 1 member, and then Caledonia, a 1 member. So what you have is 3 1-member districts up there.
Yeah,
Presumably, there's
that-
no reason why you could not take the 2 kingdom districts and make it a 2-member district, which is what it is now.
You mean
Right.
the Orleans and the Caledonia, Essex, Orleans?
Correct.
Because you have to add part of Caledonia in there.
Yeah,
too.
understood.
Yeah,
But Orleans, Orleans and Essex County goes well together, and it's been together since the beginning of time. And the way this map is drawn, it's thrown in with Caledonia County or part of Caledonia County.
mhm.
And I know our numbers are down some, but if you add Richford Montgomery, which has been in that district for well over, I think 30 years, but maybe it's 20. You know, those numbers are coming together pretty well with one other town somewheres, whether it's, I know Randy isn't happy about Berkshire, but maybe either Eden or one of those, Bakersfield.
Is what happens to Lamoille as to whether those 2, Eden and Belvedere, which don't belong with Franklin at all, whether they belong better with an Essex Orleans district or more likely a Lamoille
Mhm.
somewhere. But
So- Bobby, why doesn't the addition of some Caledonia counties, towns fit into this as opposed to the Franklin?
I think we'd get major pushback from the senators from Caledonia County. And I was just trying to avoid that pushback. And the more you go south, the further away they are. In Caledonia County south by, another 20 miles. And I think if Randy and I worked across the top, we could figure that out with the mapper and come back with a workable plan. I don't know how far south you want us to go. If you want us to fool with Caledonia County as well, that would just give us more more numbers. But I think Caledonia County is going to have to borrow some people from Lamoille County, because Lamoille County's way over or over quite a bit. And so you could borrow a town from Lamoille County that would fit in well with Caledonia County.
Which one?
Like Wilcott, if we could move either Wilcott in with Caledonia, or because it's part of that. No, that's part of Lamoille.
I remember when we did it before, Wolcott was adamant that they belonged in Lamoille.
Yes. I having served with Linda Martin for many years. Yeah.
They relate to Lamoille County, not to Caledonia. And I understand that the 2 senators from Caledonia might, first of all, one of them will not be a senator next year. So it isn't, so the issue of addressing incumbents is not necessarily an issue there at all. And I don't know how they feel about whether they should be borrowing from other places to remain a 2-member district, or if,
I
yeah,
think that-
Senator Clarkson.
I think that's one of the things we had sort of, that we need to do informally is reach out to our colleagues and just sort of get a sense. I would encourage them, to look at the map if they haven't, at this
Mhm.
initial minority map that we've are working from, and just start talking to each other about this. I mean, it's possible that Caledonia and Orange would be a good 2-person district. It's, the numbers may work if we can do it with to go to Chris's idea that Essex Orleans might, continue as a 2-person. But I think that we can't assume anything until we actually talk to our
Mhm.
colleagues and sort of get some initial sense of some of their concerns. I've heard from 1 or 2, but people have not reached out, which I'm a little surprised by. And maybe it's incumbent on us to do a little outreach with our colleagues.
Yeah,
I think that's helpful. I think the other thing that would be helpful are combinations of those of us on the committee who have adjacencies of meeting together and working with the map experts, such as
Mhm.
Bobby suggested that he and I do. And I think that would be very helpful.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
I think we'll get more input from the public if we start having some sample maps.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
when people come forward and say, what about this for this corner? Then people will react. And then that's a good way to start engaging with the public, I think.
And we do have to remember that in engaging the public, as Bobby said, no one wants to see a change, period. Everybody is probably satisfied, or most people are probably satisfied with what they have right now and don't want to see a change. So any change that we propose is going to get
yeah,
a
push.
fair amount of negative reaction. And it's the negative reaction we're going to hear from, not people who say, oh, that might make sense. We're not going to hear from them. We're going to hear from the people who object to whatever we propose. So I think we have to really remember that, and remember that our duty is to create maps that make sense and that meet the constitutional and statutory requirements. And just remembering that the LAB had a lot of time this summer. We are having limited, but a lot of time, and the public isn't going to have the benefit of having any of that time or any of this discussion. They're only going to react to the one change that affects them. So I think we just need to remember that. Senator Clarkson?
I just lost my thought on this, and I'll come back to me in 1 second, because I actually had a good contribution. And I just sort of lost it in thinking about, I was responding to a Mount Holly resident last night in an email, and I did think, I've spent time getting to know Mount Holly, and we are invested in our communities. And I was thinking I would really be sad to lose Mount Holly, because I have really come to appreciate that community as much as I've been able to get to know it. And it's hard. Change is hard. We are hardwired against change, and yet it's the one thing we are guaranteed in life is that things change. It's
just because you're not representing Mount Holly, or you may not be representing Mount Holly, does not mean you can't keep contacts there. You have, I mean,
I'm just saying, this is a reality of our lives. We have to balance and juggle our humanness and the realities of the way the world works. Change is all around us. Change and decay in all around I see.
Yep. So I would suggest that before Friday, hopefully, some of us can maybe Senator Collmore and Clarkson and I can set a time where we could just look at the 4 southern counties.
How about tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., Allison?
Okay, works for me.
If we're on skates, maybe. If we could meet at
Allison,
glad-
you haven't even gone to bed by 6 in the morning yet, so just stay up.
Becca and I have a deal. She's up at 4:30. I go to bed at midnight. It means 4.5 hours of the Senate isn't covered. You know, other than that, maybe Brian needs to help us cover the rest of it. Yeah, it's just, you know, we all have to work with our life patterns and our lives. So we'll.
So anyway, by Friday, maybe the southern group can get together, the central group and the northern group,
Yeah,
and we can
Yeah, I'll try
start
to
to,
schedule something for the northern group
Yeah.
to fit with
Yeah.
Bobby's schedule.
and,
Yeah.
and I think, Andy, you are kind of a northern, southern, or central both.
Middle.
So Andy,
Middle, Sam and Chris could work together maybe if they.
well, I
need-
think that,
I'm happy to work with Andy too.
and I
um,
think, I really like the idea of Lamoille and Washington being just, anyway, but
It's just.
But
to
there
point
are
out that
lots of things here to excite the imagination.
The issue with Lamoille and Washington is the same for Washington and Orange. Either way, you can split them up and they come almost to exactly a.
Right.
District.
Yeah.
So,
so maybe it's
But I-
Washington and Orange.
but I'll reach out to both
Oh.
McDonald and the Addison County
Okay.
folks and see for
Okay.
those towns that touch.
Great.
I
Yeah,
remember,
so Allison,
I remember my question. So we've talked about a lot about communities and how they're organized and school supervisory unions and things. Did Nick, did the LIB, and maybe Jeannie and Tom can answer this, did the LIB look at actually a geographic map of the state in terms of its natural communities, the mountain ranges, what I've talked about with Pittsfield is very much a geographic reality for that community. So was there an overlay of geographic information of mountains and river?
can I add to that in that I've been, for years, I worked with Frank Bryan and John McClowery about their book on Vermont papers and how the way we have divided up our towns and our counties is just ridiculous. And they suggest that we create, because shopping areas change, school districts change, all of those communities change. But the only thing that doesn't change is the watersheds. And that's the way they suggested we look at setting up the shires, is by watersheds, because that doesn't change. And if we try to, look at the changes in the Northwest. Those communities have changed a lot. And the communities of, for example, Bellows Falls is more aligned to Springfield than to Brattleboro, even though it's in Windham County, it's right on the border. So anyway, I just throw that in there as a follow-up to Allison's question. And now she's on the phone, so she won't hear the answer anyway.
Well, I'll do my best to
Madam Chair.
vamp while Senator Clarkson gets back here. The answer, I'll have to defer to Jeannie Albert and Tom Whittle as to the process by which they arrived at some of these, but I will note that the mapping data that we currently have access to does often use water boundaries, or can use water boundaries to separate geographic areas, but only really when those boundaries are already being used as a census block. Essentially, a census block is the smallest geographic, most granular geographic data, like polygon that we can use to create a two-dimensional geographic area that could be turned into a district, for instance. Other examples would include a voting district or a ward or a town or city municipal boundary or a county. That could be changed with the addition of more data, and I think VCGI would probably be useful in doing so, but I haven't done so because I did not want to change or risk any kind of changes to the process that the LAB had already instituted and that I was simply inheriting and passing on to you as a technical assistant.
Which is why I asked if Tom and Jeannie, but maybe you answered that while no one was picking up the phone, so I apologize.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
This is Tom Little from the Apportionment Board. Senator Clarkson, yes and no. I think the initial mapping exercises all tended to use maptitude that focused largely on census blocks and town and county boundary lines and existing legislative district lines. But we tried, those of us who were doing the mapping work, and we did very little group mapping work as an apportionment board. We broke into individual or subgroups to do that, just to get the work done. We tried in each case to then go back to a map with mountains and valleys and rivers and such, and to draw on the collective knowledge of members of the Apportionment Board and the Secretary of State staff to point out things that would be obvious if you lived in an area, but not obvious if you were looking at a maptitude map. I used one of these things, the Vermont Atlas,
Yeah,
which
they're
I
very
saved from the last time around. But you still won't wind up making silly, maybe not mistakes, but we ran into a problem 10 years ago with Stamford, and we did it again with Stamford this year until we corrected it. It's, as I said, I think in my first testimony, it's a very iterative trial and error process.
Thank you.
And to the extent, I also would say, to the extent in the minority map that we tried to leave existing districts that had okay population deviations alone, we didn't go back and look at existing districts to see whether they made geographic sense, because we figured they're already there and people at least have gotten used to them.
So I'm going to make a comment about people getting used to the maps and who represents them and stuff. I will say that there are a great number of people out there who don't particularly know and don't care. And I hesitate to say that, but there are people out there who think we go to Washington. So I think that we need to be very careful about I don't know how to say this, about thinking that the 42,000 constituents in my county all know who serves them, who they should go to, whether their House person is the same as their Senate person, whether I go to Washington or I run into people in September and they say, oh, are you still in Washington? And anyway, so I just want us to be very careful about ascribing too much weight to what we think that people get used to and like and don't like. There are people in Wilmington who still think that I'm their senator. I haven't been for 20 years.
Well,
So-
they must like you, Jeanette.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm going to have to get a separate clock in here because when the map is up, I can't see the clock on my computer. So I have no idea what time it is.
We have 4 minutes.
That's 4 minutes of 9.
I suggest that we end because I don't know about other people, but most of us
Yeah.
have committees at 9.
Yep.
We do.
Randy, you wanna just send me a note when you get an appointment with Nick and,
Yeah. Why don't you say, Bobby, if you could just send me a note saying when you're not available over the next several days.
Okay.
Uh,
And Randy and
right.
Allison, I'll check into something for us.
You mean me?
You mean
I-
Brian?
I meant
Yeah.
Brian. I don't know
Yeah.
why I said Randy.
I'm
Yes.
wide open tomorrow.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
you're going
I'm,
to be sending out the appointment scheduler for you after this meeting. So that way we'll have something to work on.
yeah, I'm good after today, Randy.
Oh.
Okay.
okay. We'll do this scheduling